How are you doing? This Martin from Gardens for Life. Just a quick update on the garden here on this dull and windy day. It's a little bit drizzly out here, so you'll have to bear with me. I can't say I'm not a little bit embarrassed about the state of the garden at this time of year now, but also because I've just gone full time on it, so I'm going to be able to do a lot more work out here and going to tidy things up and of course make things even more productive and make more room to grow things. Don't forget, we've got a seed and plant swap coming up on the 3rd of March here in Roscommon, and we also have a number of in-person courses as well that are all available on our website, and just take a look and see there's more details in the link below. Our in-person courses actually include homesteading, all the basics of homesteading, and how to start a garden using no-dig and growing food, whether you're beginner or advanced. You also can go for a forage walk, a guided tour of our gardens, and take away a basket full of cuttings and whatever you want to find, samples. And we also have a plant propagation course as well. So if you want to learn the important skill of actually being able to multiply plants at will, please do come along, and you can take a look at the website for details, and you can get tickets there too. We hope to see some of you there. And if you'd like to support us, you can join our Birdland Homestead Patreon page, or you can join our Gardens for Life support membership, and you can also get some cuttings and tubers and plants on our website as well. I'll just put a link below. For those of you who haven't seen the video, just before Christmas we got this load of compost delivered. Unfortunately, backing in a trailer in the middle of winter is not a good idea, and it was a tractor trailer. And you can see here he left an unholy mess. So what we're going to do here is we're simply going to turn this into a garden. We're just going to cover what's left of the grass there with cardboard, and then we're going to cover it with compost, same as we will over here. But we're going to go over this way first and take a look. So you can see here the grasses on the path have completely taken over the edges of the garden, of our no-dig garden beds. We were planning on making a path here all the way along with some wood chips, but I think what we'll do instead is we'll just get rid of all the grass in this particular area, and we'll simply just make it all into a garden. That way we have a lot less maintenance, a lot less grasses and weeds to deal with. What have I told you about digging in the rhubarb? No digging here. Don't be no digging in the rhubarb, please. They love digging bones into the ground, but sure, I let them dig anyway, just not in the middle of the rhubarb patch. Come on, this way. Come. So you can see the willows have been thinned out. Been working on that for the last couple of months. Actually, December, January, we've been cutting them. The raspberries have been thinned out a good bit, so we get some more airflow in between them, and we should get a better crop that way. Because last summer it was very wet, and especially in late summer most of our raspberries actually went mouldy. The only way it can really prevent that type of thing from happening is if you either put them in a greenhouse or put a roof over them, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to tin them out, and we'll see, hopefully we'll get a dry spell when they're ripening. Raspberries are prone to mould in here in Ireland very much. So you can see here we've got 2 more loads of compost right here. So I'm going to take those and I'm going to spread them with the help of our neighbour's front loader. And we're going to spread those in this area here. So we're going to turn this into a garden, and then we'll only have one path into the garden over that way. Let me just show you. This area here was completely overrun with weeds last year, so I said, heck it, I was a bit desperate and I just covered it with plastic, and sure enough, it did a great job. Look at that. The weeds are almost completely dead, and what I'll do here is I'll probably cover it with a bit more cardboard and a bit more compost as well, just to make sure that I get rid of all those perennial weeds. Of course, nettles, like you can see here, those ones, they need to be gotten rid of by digging them up. I know it's a no-dig garden, but sometimes even us no-dig gardeners have to make sacrifices. So this was the former wall garden, not a walled garden because there's only one wall. And it's a lovely wall from about the 1830s, from around the famine time. We believe it was a part of the Crofton estate, and unfortunately it's covered in ivy, and of course that ivy is fruiting again, so I might have to do something about that. For those of you saying, oh, that's good bird food, well, we have plenty of ivy on other trees, so don't worry about that. We do feed the birds a lot here with our berry bushes, and we have a little bit of maintenance to do here. This area was mainly annuals in the first year, but then it turned into more of a perennial garden. Unfortunately, this area here has a lot of grasses taken over. But again, we're talking about the edges here. I used to have a path along here with about 1 meter wide, covered in plastic and wood chips. Fortunately, the wood chips turn into compost after a while. And what happens next is the grasses just throw themselves over the plastic. They just basically a tip layer over the top, and the rhizomes actually just grow onto the paths, and then they take over eventually, unless you really maintain them very well, which I did not have the time to do, unfortunately, not last year anyway. I will do this year, but this year I'm going to be approaching things a little bit differently, and I'm going to be having less grass and more paths and more garden beds instead. We've already been harvesting a few Jerusalem artichokes here. Very easy to harvest them, especially when you grow them in compost. That was a really good experiment, I have to say. That was well worth it. I must make a totally separate video on that. The experiment of growing Jerusalem artichokes directly in a no-dig garden bed. The Jerusalem artichokes don't really need a lot of fertility, but they'll do so much better when you give them compost. Like if you plant them straight into 8 to 10 inches of compost, and my God, the amount of productivity you get out of it is unbelievable. Some of you might have seen the videos of the Jerusalem artichoke being harvested, and we have 5 different varieties, and we used to have more than that, but those are the better ones, and I don't want to go too overboard on any one of these perennial vegetables. I'd rather add on other types of vegetables and berry bushes and things like that instead. You can see here, this area here used to be an area full of pots, and I simply decided I'm not going to have so many pots this year, and I'm just going to grow more plants in the ground instead. This was mainly yakons, and I'm going to be growing orphrey here mainly, and some of the other kind of more annual plants, I guess. You could leave them in there, but I'm going to cover it eventually with all of the this whole area will be eventually covered with wood chips, and same as our wood chip island right here. And a little bit of tidying to do here too. There's a few pots still there, a few plants that are still worth saving. Fortunately, our compost piles over here have been covered in weeds last year. We left them there for 1.5 years, and I should have really covered them last summer, because of course some of the grasses went to seed around here, and that did not fare well for our compost piles. Luckily, they're hopefully not too deeply rooted, and I should be able to save it. I've already given it a go here, cleared some of it, and it is definitely doable. So I'm going to clear these compost piles, and then I'm going to get a tractor with a front loader to move the compost to another area. What have you got there? A Jerusalem artichoke stalk. Come on. The wind has been fairly desperate here for blowing all of my plastic around, covering the grasses. You can see here, this has been covered for about half a year now, and all of the grasses are dead. However, there is a copious amount of seed here, grass seeds. Not too sure how to deal with that, but I'm probably going to cover the area with plastic one more time. Maybe just wood chips, maybe just plastic, and then I'm going to use one of these compost piles here, which was actually partially covered with plastic last year. You can see it's really good stuff. What are you doing here? You want to dig? Look, dig. Show us that compost. They love digging in the compost pile. So I'm going to use this compost for potting up plants. I'm not going to have too many, just a little area like that here for potted plants. I'm not going to go overboard, but also it's handy because I've got my water supply right here, which is simply a gutter with some IBC tanks. So I'm going to be able to water them very easily right here. Whether I do it with a pump and a hose or whether I do it with watering cans, it doesn't really matter. I don't mind either way. The greenhouse will finally be used too. I haven't used this greenhouse for growing plants for 3 years now. I only built it about 3.5 years ago, and looking forward to actually making use of all this extra potential. These are some great mullein, and they have gone to seed. And you can see the seeds. Hang on now. You can see the seeds here. You have to open up the seed pods, and you can see the seeds coming out. They probably need to dry a little bit more, but the best way to harvest the seeds is actually to put them into a bag, a plastic bag, and then just kind of squish them around the place. See the seeds here? Can you see that? Hang on. There, you can see them now. And each of those little seeds turns into one of the 8 foot tall or 2.5 meter tall great mullein plants. And in the first year it makes a rosette of leaves, and then in the second year it makes the seed stalk. And they're really beautiful for the garden, but also they're extremely useful for the insects because they flower for several months in the summer. And they are very useful as a medicinal plant as well. The salt bush is totally out of control. I'm going to cut it back because it's kind of smothering our fig trees here. There's a few black mission fig trees here, and we have black turkey as well. Or sorry, brown turkey and black mission, and then there's also black Persian. So figs are really nice when you grow them at home, and I'm looking forward to taking some cuttings off these, and I'm going to try and get better at growing those. Oh Jesus, what happened here? Somebody ate somebody here. This is a goji berry tree, or a goji bush I should say, although it is huge. It's like 3 meters tall, and it has not been productive, unfortunately. It has flowered alright, but it hasn't produced anything. It is good for the leaves, like you can make tea from the leaves and that kind of thing, but even to grow more plants. But not sure if it needs a pollinator. Maybe some of you guys can tell us about that. Maybe do you need 2 different varieties of goji to pollinate one another? Possibly. I have several varieties of gojis. I just haven't got an extra one here in the greenhouse. They did do okay outside, but you know, they do a lot better indoors, of course. Same as the salt bush. The salt bush actually makes it through the winter, even if we get very cold temperatures here of -7 or 8. And outside, all my salt bushes actually died, unfortunately. The leaves are really nice to eat, and they are salty. They do really taste like salt when you eat them, but they're really nice, kind of like spinach, but a bit more sophisticated. You can see the Madeira vine. I'm going to be transplanting some of those. But anyway, this is more of a garden plan video, not a tour. This area here, I'm going to tidy it all up, and we have a little area here for working and for sitting down as well. And here we are at the other side again. So here I want to show you real quick. Don't want to make this video too long now on you. We have some wood chips already in place here. I can rake those out and cover up all this area here. Remove those weeds first, of course, and get rid of some of those grasses and nettles in the middle. And I'm going to be using some of those wood chips in the pile over there. This pile here. I'm going to be using those to cover up our garden beds here, and then we'll use the compost from the other side that I showed you, the ones that are covered in weeds at the moment. And we're going to cover all of this with compost and start a new garden. I'm very excited about that. Although there is some nettles here that I'm going to have to deal with. Probably just going to leave that area covered afterwards first for another year before I can do any more with it. But you can see here, all of this used to be covered. Oh Jesus, look at this. Didn't the young lad leave a fucking rake out, huh? Jesus. That's the way to rot the handle away. You must have forgotten it there. I'll bring it in a minute. So this area used to be covered in plastic, but of course it's the second time now that the wind has blown all the plastic around the place. You need to cover it with more rocks. I probably haven't put down enough rocks, but I used all the rocks I had without taking down our famine wall. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use any of the rocks from the wall. Those are sacred. And yeah, we'll probably just cover this again for another month or two, and then we're going to be bringing in the compost. Of course, we're going to remove the plastic first. You want to take a look at the front garden here? I'm going to make a little willow tunnel here. It's going to be very mysterious in the summer when it's all leafed out. These are some of our newer willows, which have been planted there 2 years ago. I'll make a video about them too. This is our front garden. It used to be just briars. Then we removed the briars and we put down a no-dig garden with lasagna on top. So basically a layer of wood chips. It is like a jungle in the summertime. And you can see, unfortunately, in the center of it here, there is some grasses that have popped up, and I've let them go last year, and I shouldn't have. You really need to keep on top of them, because now it's just extra work to get rid of them again. What I might do is see there's actually a layer of wood chips underneath here, and I probably should have put down an extra bit of wood chips last year before the grasses had taken over. To be honest with you, last year was a bit of a roller coaster anyway, in my own personal life, but also in my job and my business as well. And I didn't get to stay on top of this garden here, just this particular garden between the road and the shelter belt. That is the front garden. We call it a wildlife corridor, and we like to consider ourselves a part of the wildlife, so hence we planted things that we can benefit from too, like apple trees, for example, and currants, and even flowers and other things like that, gooseberries, even some just aesthetically pleasing plants like the curly corkscrew willow, which we still have cuttings for on our online shop, by the way. Here's another apple tree. We got about 10 apple trees from Irish Seed Savers about 1.5 years ago, and planted those. And a few hazels as well. We're going to buy more hazels and get those planted. We don't have enough nut trees and hazels. We do have some walnuts. You can see this is all raspberries here. It'll turn into a nice garden so far, except for the weeds and grasses, but I'm going to take control of those. This is a pear tree and a plum tree from Lidl, and they are here for 5 years now, nearly 6 years actually. And they're not very good now. They haven't really flowered much, but we'll see. Believe it or not, this is actually a sapling sea buckthorn off this one. So it grew an underground sucker, and then it grew bigger, and I let it go because we could do with more cuttings anyway. Well, I hope you enjoyed that quick update tour. Lots more plans on the homestead itself and in our other gardens, which I'll show you in another video. I don't want to take too much of your time. Thanks a million for watching, and we'll see you the next time. And if you'd like to support us, you can join our Birdland Homestead Patreon page, or you can join our Gardens for Life support membership, and you can also get some cuttings and tubers and plants on our website as well. I'll just put a link below. Thanks a million. See you. Bye bye.